This is to address the $1,000 challenge, creating a ham shack for $100,000, or sorry, for $1,000, $100,000. I wish. And so I'm going to go through the parts, and I'm going to give you a couple of takes on the way I would do it. This is based on my experience with SDRs. Some of you might know I have quite a few. I've got a Flex Radio, a Sun SDR, a 101D Yaesu, a Yaesu FTDX10. I've had a 7300. Sitting next to me here is a 705. I have a lot of different SDRs and a lot of experience with them. And so I wanted to give you a SDR alternative. A lot of people are using the 891. Great radio. I use it. I have it. I also have an 857. I love the older radios too. There's nothing that can compare to sitting down there with knobs and buttons and the little displays and being out in a park and working a Parks on the Air. However, I wanted to try to see what I could do with the challenge and get you something that's closer to the kind of radios that I use every day, the high-end SDRs. So anyway, I'm starting out with a Hermes Lite 2, which is a full radio I'll show you in a few minutes. An Evolve 3 laptop, which is the $60 laptop. The reason I don't use a Raspberry Pi, which can be used here for the Hermes, is that you then have to add a keyboard and a screen, and I believe a power supply. You have to add the power supply in there, because the Pi just comes with as a Pi. It's just a Pi. So everything else you're going to add to it, the screen, etc. And I have a Pi 400, which is a perfectly good alternative. The problem was that the screen, if that's the only thing you've got, you need to be able to see it, and you don't have a tablet for VNC and all these other unique ways of looking at it, then you're going to have to add a screen to it. And for me, in my old eyes, that was about $200, almost $160 just for a screen, to get one that I could use on the 400, and then the 400's $100 itself. So anyway, I went with the cheaper option of the Evolve 3 laptop. So in the first example here, we have the DX Commander Classic, because I think it's one of the best antennas that you can have. There are other versions. You could use a Rapide, which is less money. You could use an Expedition. An Expedition's a little less money. So there are alternatives here. I went with the one that I like the best because it's the one I am most familiar with, and it's the one that I've enjoyed the longest. It's a permanent install, and to me, these are the kinds of things that you would build in a shack. I'm not talking about portable radios here necessarily. I mean, you could take this portable and with a battery or something like that. So this is not. You're not locked in the shack with this thing by any stretch of the imagination, and I'll kind of show you why in a minute. Anyway, the coax I went with was in both cases is the 75 ohm coax, or 75 foot of RG8X, and in one case, well, actually in both cases, and you'll see this in a minute, you have an Alinco DM30T. It's one that I've owned. Works really well, $129. It's a good power supply. It has power poles on it. The MFJ 5513M is a cable that's required to connect to the Hermes, because the Hermes has a 2.5 millimeter jack, and that MFJ cable comes already assembled. You don't have to buy any other parts. You don't have to buy the power poles or the crimper or any of that stuff. It's just simply, here you go. Here's the the cable already pre-built. I am showing here the amplifier. I probably should take it completely off the sheet, but that is not part of that $898 total. So, and then in my second shot at it, I've got a Hermes Lite 2, an Evolve 3 laptop, an Alpha Delta C, and I'll show you that in a minute, some American fishing wire strand, surf strand, which is just pure copper wire. I'll show you that in a minute. Coax again. This 12 amp power supply, and that is a 12 amp supply that's about 5 amps, 12 volts at 5 amps, which is more than enough for the Hermes. Hermes really only cars about 2 amps, even on transmit. So this is a perfectly valid thing. However, and by the way, let me do this real quick. You can take just this and that's it, or you can plus add this into it. And real quick, while we're talking about it, let's bring that up real quick, and let's clear this, and let's start over, and let's just add this up real quick. That's $358 and 60 cents, or oops, backslash 0.6 plus 60 plus 35.99 plus 22.04 plus 79 plus $12.99. Okay, we're at $568.62 just with that. So this is $568.62. So I've actually gone in here with a complete kit for under $600. That's under the cost of a $891. Okay, but plus the if I wanted to, I want something with a little more power. I want to get out there. I want to be able to work some DX even, and be able to, you know, kind of hang with the mid crowd, I'll say, because I'm a QRO guy. So this is not the big power guys, but definitely hang with the regular barefoot crowd in the 100-watt range. We're only going to add what's called a 50-watt amp, but it's not 50 watts. You get lucky on a few bands and you'll get 40 watts out. In general, the amp goes for about 35 amps before it starts to splatter. So I'd keep it around 35 amps, which means you control how much power output that the Hermes does and outputs. And by the way, I am not going to go over how to use this. If at some point you guys want to see how to use a Hermes, I can probably put it online, but there are videos out there. So anyway, basically with this plus, what I'm doing here is I'm adding the amplifier and the Elenco. Well, if I add the amplifier and the Elenco, I can actually drop this power supply and power the Hermes off of it. So there is that option. So when I add these two things in here, I'm getting up to $856. So as you can tell, there's about a couple of $100 at least that you don't have to spend right away. You could get the above set of software, or sorry, set of hardware, and you've got this left over. Maybe you want to add a through window thing from MFJ so that you can get out to your backyard or your side yard or whatever in order to make your coax run. Of course, you'll have to buy a jumper, but anyway, there are endless possibilities. So let me jump over here to the web here, and I'm going to start going over a few things. First of all, I wanted to talk to you about that. I hope you're all familiar with the DX Commander, the move. I'm going to assume that you are, or that you can go and look that up online. Anyway, here we have an Alpha Delta Delta C. I have one of these. It's a great kit, very, very rugged, works very well. But let me show you. So as you can see right here, it may be a little small, because I don't know that you can click this thing and bring it. Yeah, it doesn't really bring it up. So anyway, what you can do is, this is actually a very long set of screws that go through here with the wing nuts on it. And now it only comes with 2 of these connectors on it. But the nice thing, and the thing I recommend, is that you add more. So what you end up with is, instead of a, say, linked dipole or one of those kinds of things, you end up with a fan dipole. So you start off, you put your 40 meter element on here. Again, if you want to use 40, you can. The choice is up to you. You cut your 40 meter antenna, you tune it up, you get it working, and then you come back, a few days later, hey, 40 is working great, I want to add 20 to it. So then you cut a 20 meter element, you put your little ends on there, and you screw it down onto here. Now you've just started off on a fan dipole. And then you go through, adjust your 20, adjust your 40, make sure everything's still working. Now you've got 2 bands. And then you go, oh, hey, 10 meters sounds like it's open. Let me add a 10 meter element here. Then you go in, you cut your 10 meter element, you add it on here. This thing can handle quite a few wires on that terminal post. So I've got 3 elements right now, 40, 20, and 10. I'm getting 15 off the 40, so I've got 4 bands right there. I mean, very good beginner antenna. You get to learn a lot by cutting your own antenna and making it up. And it's I don't know. I really like this antenna. Now I'm going to go over here, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to duplicate this tab, and we're going to look up copper fishing line. Okay, here we go. So this is what I'm recommending here, and if you go to the 300 foot and select it, right now it's $15.99. I think when I bought it, it was more expensive than that, but that's 300 feet of wire for $15.99, and it's strong. I mean, it's obviously strong. It's a 45-pound test if you read this. So can it stretch? Possibly, but it doesn't really stretch that much. I use it, and this gives you plenty of wire for multiple antennas. Plus, one thing about it is that with this, what I'm using this thing for is a loop on the ground. Now, if you don't have a high noise floor, we're not even going to go into that, but if you don't have a high noise floor, you don't have to do that, and that's a lot of extra parts. We're not going to go over it right now. One day I might actually go over the build for a loop on the ground. I've talked about them a couple of times, and even on different YouTube channels about how they work. So let's not worry about that. Okay, let's just go over here. So here we have this is a different alternative. It's 500 feet of 26 gauge silicon wire. Again, very good for making antennas out of. There's a lot of people who buy this and use it. I believe if we go to DX Engineering and look for oh yeah, that's right, DX Engineering doesn't have that. I'm not gonna bring that up, but You can get antenna wire from many places. So, you know, give it your best shot. I went with something that I know works and I have used. Now let's get over to the Hermes. This is not the one that I'm talking about. Let's go to Maker Fabs. Okay. I'm not sure that. Why did that do that? Maker. Yeah, there we go. All right. So sorry about that. So here's Maker Fabs. Here is the Hermes Lite 2. This is what you're seeing is the board. It's been optimized and everything. This is a transmitter, a transceiver, basically. It's got the see here you can see the Altera chip, and I'll tell you why I'm pointing that out in a minute. It's got a lot of parts around it. This is actually a build 9. That's the latest build, and these are currently in production, and you can order them right now. And so I have no problem showing this. This is the filter board that goes with it. This provides your bandpass filters for the different bands. And the one thing about the Hermes is as I recall, the Hermes does not do 6 meters, but it does everything else. So 160 through 10, I believe, is what the deal is. I can look that up actually. But anyway, so you get this, and then the other thing I've added in is the enclosure. The enclosure is $16. It comes with the front plate and a black plate. The Hermes, you put the two boards together. Let me show you back. Yeah, on this board, I believe it is. So this board comes as this board. There's this backing here, and then there's this little thing here that looks like it's going to go onto a. In fact, you probably could plug this onto a Raspberry Pi onto the GPIO pins. But you have this row of GPIO pins, and then back on the Hermes, you'll see that there's a set of pins here. Basically what you do is you push those two together, or set them next to each other, and take that little thing that I was just showing you, and you slip it over both these boards, and it connects them together, and that's it. You're done. That's the most amount of this assembly that you need to do. Well, there's a few other things, but you slip that on there, and it connects the two boards, and then you literally just slide it into the case like it's showing here. You're going to slide this thing into the case. There is a nowadays, when I bought mine, it did not come with the shim. They're now giving you the shim. The shim requires a screw be going through it, usually a 3mm by 6. I think it's a 3mm 6, and I don't do it the way this is showing, where they're screwing down this way. I screw up into the board, up into the deal. You can actually see the hole here. If you countersink this hole, then this flathead screw will come right up into it, lay flat with the board, or lay flat with the case, and you can't even tell that it's there. And then the nut comes down this way and pushes the shim down. So that's the way I've done it, and that's the way I prefer to do it. These little heat sinks are good to have, because there's no necessarily any airflow here, but I've never had mine overheat anyway. But I've never taken it portable, so I don't know. It might get hot if I took it out in the Texas sun. But anyway, so this is the radio. It's a very good radio, and I'll show you why I like this radio. This is a company called Apache Labs. They make high-end HF radios. They're on the same level as a Flex radio or any of those top-tier radios. The top tier radios are are what I run most often, and this radio is no different. And now this is the Apache Labs version of the Onan. I don't know if you click it, okay, it comes up. So if you notice, here's the Altera Cyclone 3. It's the same part we just saw in the other one. Difference is all of this circuitry around here. A lot of this is, some of it's the filtering that we were talking about earlier. So the N280R board is part of all of this, and here probably these things here. And then as well, there's some additional circuitry on here, and this was not, this is actually an older radio than the other one. The guy that had built the older radio that originally created the Hermes Lite, that's the reason it's called Lite, is that it has less of this circuitry and more of this circuitry is in the surface mount that's on there. You still have the I don't know that they show much of it. Yeah, that's a different part, so let's not look at that. I don't. Yeah, that's a different part. This actually here is a 10-watt amplifier, or 10-watt amplifier that you can add onto it. Right here, it's shown. It's a 10-watt PA board for the for $199. This doesn't come with that. The standard Hermes. So this one will do 5 watts out. As far as I understand it, 5 watt. By the way, I've got one of these on order. I'm going to try it. So you have the, and I added the amplifier. So this one does 5 watts out, but this thing, you add that other thing, you can get 10 watts out of it. And then probably what I'll do is hook it into my 100-watt amplifier. But anyway, so getting back to why I'm pointing this out, this is the insides of their top tier radios. I want to show you, like, for instance, this is the 7000 DLE, and let's see, oops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, is it in here? Can't remember. I've seen the insides of this. I had it up a little while ago. But the inside of this radio is basically that same board with basically a they've added a lot more connectivity to it, which is why that, you know, got 3 antenna inputs. The Hermes only has 1, or actually it's got 2, but there's 1 here and then 1 basically receive only. So it's maybe got this one and 1 other, but so there are ways of doing it. By the way, the Hermes connects to the to a power amplifier very easily. So anyway, you're basically you're getting a light version. I want to say light version. It's not exactly, but you're getting a light version of this about $4,000 radio. Or let me see. There's another one that's called an Andromeda. I don't see it. Yeah, here it is. The Andromeda. That's an SSD upgrade. Here it is. $4,000 radio right now, almost $5,000. That is, again, great radios. These things are top notch. This includes a computer inside of it, so you get all the knobs and buttons and everything like it. Really nice radios, and they stand up to, in fact, in some ways exceed the Flex radio, that kind of stuff. And I want to point something else out. This Thetis. Thetis is software that's coming in and maintained by, I believe it's maintained by Onan. It's open source though. So if you go to here, you're going to pop over. This is our OpenHP SDR radio or software. This thing runs on Linux or any of a number of other things. software I would recommend is the CAHR SDR Thetis software, which is what they're talking about here. Yeah, it's it's done by the CAHR organization, but it's OpenHP SDR Thetis. So it's basically that same software, and Anand contributes a lot to this because it's driving their radios. So again, you're going to get this same software that Anand's using on their radios, which gives you, by the way, there's a number of YouTube videos on it. I'm not going to go into it. There's a number of videos on the Hermes as well. So anyway, that's what I mean. What you're getting here is a top tier radio. That's what I'm trying to stress. Very good receiver, very good transmitter, and it's an SDR, which is really difficult to do, especially one that transmits and works as well as this for in this $1,000 and to get that radio for in that $1,000 price range that was part of the challenge. So that's the reason I wanted to do this video and to really go through all of this. Oops, I shouldn't really do that, really, should I? The reason I wanted to go through all of that was that and present you this information is to give you guys a idea of what you can do within that $1,000 budget, or hey, look at this. I mean, we're even below that in the $568 range for that smaller that smaller contingency. So there's different ways of doing this. Also, even with the amplifier, you still have about $150 left over for tools. And TO gave you quite a few suggestions there on tools you might want to look at. You probably can't buy as many on this budget. If you really wanted to do the tools, you could go with that $568 budget. And this is a radio that very easy to add digital modes to it. You can transmit with it. Great SDR. You can run all kinds of SDR software against it because it's recognized as a standard SDR. So SDR console works with it, and different just pure SDR receiving software works with it. Not SDR Uno, because that's only works with one particular hardware platform. I believe OpenWebRX also works with it. So anyway, there's various software platforms that work on this. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in, see, throw this on at the wall, so to speak, and see if it sticks. Anyway, 73 everyone, and hope you enjoy the video. This is Don N5SKT 73.